All right, hello everybody. Hopefully everybody's having a good day. This is another installment of SONARAY's webinar series. This is going to be on the sports light today. So we'll go ahead and get started. So getting started, this particular one in the picture is a 500 watt. They are stackable, so you can go 500, 1,000, 1,500 watt as far as your packages, all on the same yoke mount. Different beam angles, 22 and 44, really depends on how much light you want to a certain spot and how high you are. The tighter the beam angle, the more foot candles you can put on the ground. This particular sports light is one of our new ones. It does have the remote driver option, so we can either have it with the driver on the fixture or we can have it with the driver in a control box. When you go into the control box, we actually have a control system that you can control by your cell phone app that we have. You can control it by say a computer in the scorekeeper's card, which we'll get to here in a couple of slides. We do also have the options now. We can do full site. So we can do the poles, we can do the sports brackets. Of course, we can do the remote boxes, which I have a picture of one, or a sample of one actually sitting here beside me. We can do pretty much everything. If you have the field, we do everything from the ground up. Pretty much most of our sports poles are the galvanized poles. We can do on some lower versions, we can go into steel, but pretty much in user preference. The lumens per watt for this particular fixture you can see is 127. And then IP66, and these are impact resistance. So if they get hit with a baseball, they get hit with whatever, they are IK10. So the impact resistance is basically at the top tier. This is two pictures of another version we have, which is the RGBW. You can stack them, same thing as the sports light. The one inhibitor on the RGBW is you can change the colors, but it does reduce your lumen output. So if you're trying to use them as a sole source lighting and you want that amount of foot candles, it might take more fixtures, but it still is possible. And we do have our own DMX controller system, so we can do that as a full package as well. So this is actually a picture of a sample pole and light installation. 4 samples. They have I've got one here behind me. They're actually tiltable, or they're tiltable and they're swivel. So on the bracket, there's a half moon, so you can swivel it and lock it into place. You see the remote box, which is actually right here, has the drivers, has a fuse system in it, and then we also keep the wireless controls. So the wireless controls, which we'll get to here in just a minute, is controlled by the gateway. Also, again, this is a galvanized pole, typically comes in 2 to 3 sections depending on your height of your pole. So getting really more into detail, we have 2 types. We have a type A and we have a type B. So our type A fixture is the remote driver. Goes down into the control box. If you do the remote driver option, pretty much standard, we'll have to use the remote boxes with it to make sure everything fits in. We have them pre-wired with a standard breaker already in it. You just hook and connect, quick connects for the lights themselves, and then they're wired into small panels here on top. The type B is actually driver on the fixture. So that means you put the light up, all your driver and your chips and your lights on top of the pole. So you would not need the remote box, basically the pole, the sports bracket, and the light itself. And then you can also see we do have shields for these, even though you see on here, no worries, it's not lit up, it's the sunlight. But we have these in cones. They're very reflective, as you can see, just by the sunlight, but it also allows us not to have that much uplight. If it is required to have the shields, you can see here in the picture, we do offer that. We also do the complete layouts with pointing, excuse me, not pointing, but aiming points. And then we have a laser that actually mounts to the side of the fixture here that you can aim right to the point in the field where we let you know on the layout where that particular light should be pointing for optimal foot candle. Here's a sample field, very easily done. You have the remote box on the side, and you can see the scorekeeper is controlling the lights from his computer. That would be a box typical like this, with the gateway, as you see, communicates with the router. Now the gateway has to be plugged into a Cat5 cable and will need to be on the same Wi-Fi signal as either the phone that you're using or the computer that you're using. If you're on a different Wi-Fi signal, you cannot control the lights. That's a safety feature where you cannot be hacked. It has to be there in the field or in that proximity. So get into the control systems, and I know we'll probably have quite a few questions on this one. This is our app-based system. We'll give you a app that you can download on your phone. It's very easy. Once you download the app, you'll add your gateway, you'll scan in, and all your lights will connect to your app system itself. Then you can, once you add the devices, when you turn those devices on, it will show you wattages you're pulling, your amperages you're pulling, and it'll show you if a fixture's not pulling the way it should. So if you have a 500 watt fixture and it's only pulling 30 watts, you automatically know you probably have a driver issue or such, and it automatically tells you, hey, you got to get it checked out. On the next one, on the groups, now they're kind of unique. So on the app base, when you put them into the group will basically have you set a presetting. So once you set it into a group and you turn the group on, maybe you have it set at 100%, maybe you have it set at 50%, because some of these lights do come dimmable. That is another option. But it automatically, once you turned on, that's where it goes. It's also done, you'll see on the next one, as scenes. Same thing, they're preset, so once you engage it, it automatically goes into that particular mode or that particular output. The areas you group into is basically, do you want to control all the fixtures themselves as a field? Do you want to control every pole? Or do you want to control each fixture in sets? Each gateway can control up to 20 areas. So here's your schedule. It's another app-based program on here. Same thing, you'll set, if you want it to come on at 6 o'clock in the evening, go off at 10 o'clock at night, you automatically have that scheduled on through the app. Again, anytime you do any setting changes, you will have to be on the same Wi-Fi signal as the gateway is. So if it's the school or the university or facility, you have to be on that same signal. So here's a sample of a high school baseball field. This particular field has 8 poles. We can do some of them if you go to a higher wattage, which we'll get to here in just a minute. We actually do have a new 1000 watt sole fixture, not a modular, but it's a sole fixture. So you can manipulate how many poles you have by your wattages. This is, again, a picture of a football field, and we do all these layouts in-house. Justin McCloskey, and you can see him on the screen on his name. He actually does all the layouts. He's manning our Q&A as well, and he can tell you how many lights go on each pole, how many poles you're going to need, or if you have a specific specification, you want 4 poles on the football field or 6 poles, he can distribute the lighting accordingly to get the acquired foot candle rating. So this is the new one. This is actually our 1000 watt. It started as one of our Epsilon floods. We now have an adaptation of it where it can be a remote driver. Works the same way, remote box. It's a little different box because it is a bigger driver, but it is also 480 compatible if you need it. It's a different driver, but we can go that route. It is IK09 instead of IK10 because these are a little bit different of a chip and a little different of a poly cover. On these poly covers, the other nice thing is there's no yellowing. So if you put it up and 5-6 years down the road, the lens won't turn and it won't crack. That's one thing we've really done well at is the configuration of poly. It really withholds the weather and the impact of the resistance of the chemicals and such that may be in the air. So this is actually a picture of a field we've done locally here in Virginia. This particular field only has 18,000 watt fixtures. So what they did have, they had 28 of the 1500 watt metal halides. They were about 33 foot candles on the infield, or excuse me, 33 foot candles on the outfield, about 55 foot candles on the infield. We went in with the same amount of poles, 4 poles, but we dropped down to 18 lights. We're pretty much 70 foot candles throughout. On the infield, we're closer to 100. The manipulation of the beams is we used 40 degree on the infield. On the outfield, we did a mix. So we did basically 3 40 degree 1000 watters and two 28-degree 1,000 watters pointed, the 28s were pointed at second base, and that's what eliminates your shadows. You can see in the picture, it's a very even foot candle. So they were very happy. The other thing that actually got us the job, we actually put it on a temporary fixture or a temporary pole, had them up 70 feet in the air. And when the batter or the pitcher were in the box, because they're recessed so far back, just like this 500 watt, you can almost see it. The chips are recessed so far back into the cone, the batter and the pitcher, they didn't get the glare. So that's actually what won us the job, is they could see with that amount of light coming out, they weren't intimidated or infracted from seeing the ball. So that helped us out greatly win this project. Since then, we've actually, we've done two. We started out with the first one. We did a second one within the next 30 days. And I think that concludes the slides. I see some things coming up on the chat. Once they pull this up, I'm going to pull my camera down just a little bit. Maybe you can see the box. This is actually the remote box. This is for a set of 4. You can see the drivers. It comes with the fuse box or the breaker switch in the middle. And this is actually what communicates with your gateway. So that'll be wireless. Your app, your computer communicates with this box, and you can see everything comes pre-wired. And then you'll just attach your, basically your power will come into the top of the box. After your power comes in, pretty much everything else is a quick connect. So it's plug and play, and it's a waterproof connector. Once you plug it up, you twist it, it is tight, watertight, and ready to go. And I will, if Justin sees any questions, he can read them out and we can answer them as we go along. I see some chats going on. So I'm seeing some questions here. As far as, let's see here, installations we have done. So we've recently done, last year we did the 2 Little League fields. We're actually in process of doing a baseball field out in the Midwest. We're also in preliminary with another baseball and softball field here locally. And we're actually in looking at a basketball arena, actually doing RGBW. So they actually want to be able to change the colors, pretty much similar fixture, just different chips. And I'll go down through the scrolls and see if I see any other questions.
All right. Yeah,
oh,
Robert, Frank.
There we go.
Yep. Frank Garcia is asking, what's the lumen output on the Epsilon?
So the Epsilon 1,000 water is 120, right now it'll be 120,000 lumen. And those beam angles, it showed a picture of the 40 degree. We actually have 18, 28, and 40. So if it's a higher pole or you really need a punch, second base seems to be the soft spot with any layout. You can pull down to a 28 or at 18 really to impact that foot candle.
Okay. Another question is, do you ever see a need to go over an 1,000 watt fixture?
We have not. We've actually recently done a bid down in South America for a soccer field. It's actually a major league soccer field. And with 1,000 watt, we were actually more than capable of achieving what they wanted. They were closer to the 200 foot candle mark. Now it was a lot of fixtures, but we could pretty much match what they were doing with the typical 1,500.
Okay. And how does SONARAY do installations in comparison with Musco?
So we have 2 options. We've done kind of both ways. We can actually bring the electrical contractor. We do lean on the reps for that area that it's in. We can bring that electrical contractor under our umbrella, because pretty much the end user, if they're going with Musco, they're going to want that sole one source type situation. So we can bring them in and be pretty much the GC of the job. The contractor and everybody can work under us. Pretty much exactly what Musco does. Here locally, we have contractors we do work with. If we get out Midwest, say West Coast, we may need to lean on some of the reps for just who's the best to go to.
All right. And in regards to the control box, does the control box have any external antennas for wireless communications?
No, it's actually all through this box here. And this box actually will communicate with the gateway up to I want to say it was 150 to 175 yards, if I'm not mistaken. So if you have a scorekeeper's box, say for a football field, and you have this mounted on the poles, you're going to be well within the reach, because that's typically where the Wi-Fi is going to go. Every pole will be well within reach of that press box.
Okay. Another question in here is asking if SONARAY can provide poles.
Absolutely. So basically, we can do everything from the ground up. We do have a pole company we work with. We don't do any direct buries on this size pole. Pretty much all ours are anchor based. We found out with some of your higher poles and the direct bury, they don't coincide real well, especially with the amount of wind sail you're going to get if you put, say, 12 of these up in the air. The safety factor, we always go with anchor based. And we can go up to, I think it's 110 to 120 foot pole if needed. Any other questions?
Yes. Is the RGB available for exterior fixtures?
Yes, all of these, pretty much all these are all exterior. They're all going to be, the 500 watt is IP66, the 1000 watts IP65. The RGBW is the same fixture, just different chips. So you can use it inside or outside. The fixture will never change. Oh, and we can do the Explorer as well, which is a smaller version.
Can these fixtures be installed on sports fields that have televised events? And if so, how do they do with shadows?
Yes, we can. Pretty much on televised events, it depends on what it is, whether it's a university, whether it's professional. We have to coincide with the foot candle requirement. These fixtures were actually developed with a partner of ours for at that time, it was the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Now it's going to be the 2021, but these actually are lighting the fields for the Olympics. And the shadows really is far as your direction of your lights. So if you want to eliminate your shadows, you basically come at 4 points from wherever the player or the person is. So each time, especially on a soccer field, if you see them running, you'll see 4 faint shadows running by the runner at all times. And as far as the CRI, we come in typically at 70. We do have higher CRI chips for your color rendering, up to 90. I was just corrected. Up to 90 CRI, so your color rendering is very vivid, more like natural sunlight.
Is the Flare sports light or the Epsilon floodlight, or either of those made in the USA?
They aren't. We actually make them in our facility in China. We can assemble some of these here. As far as technically made in America, not as of yet.
Okay, and can you just talk about the warranty on the sports lights, particularly how long of a warranty we can do?
Okay, so comes standard with a 5-year. For an increase, we do have a percentage that we can up the warranty. We've been asked for 10. We have been asked for 25 to match Musco. We're not afraid to do that because they're citizenships, they're Meanwell drivers, they're very durable. So we have no issue with that. So it is available. We just have to quote it accordingly. And if you're going against Musco, you're going to have the 25-year warranty. Wow, it got quiet. Anything else?
Yes, can you just briefly hit on how SONARAY compares with Musco on pricing?
So on the pricing, what I have seen so far, we recently priced a job. We came in about 75% of their cost, and it does depend on how aggressive they are compared to where we're at. It can depend on the pole choice. A lot of factors come into effect. If you have to set a building for the power, of course, that drives Musco's price up. With us, we actually don't have to do that. That's why we came in lower on that particular project, because we can come in with low voltage. We don't have to have the high voltage for the friction loss. Plus, even the 1,000-watt Epsilon only pulls just over 7 amps per fixture, running on 277. So we don't have to have that high volume output circuit building there to pull all that power into the field. So that's where it helps us on pricing. And basically, if you do have an issue with pricing, please reach out to us. We'll do whatever we can to try to help them win the job.
What's availability on these fixtures?
So we stock here in Verona, Virginia. That's pretty dependent on the activity and the orders. We try to keep a stock here. We do make runs where we have ran out in the past and wait for the next shipment to come in. If we don't have them, typically 3 to 4 weeks is about if we air freight them over, is about the time frame we're looking at.
Has SONARAY done any RGBW installations yet? And do you see this as a trend?
We have not yet. We've actually bid some projects that are looking very favorable for us to have. Do we see it going that way? Yes. Yes, I've got a lot of inquiries since we've offered it. It's only been out for about a month. I've got a sample here that I've actually been playing with and manipulating with the computer. But yes, we do see more people, more athletic fields are wanting to get more attention, be a little different than the next guy. And when you can change the color of the field to match either the team or the opponents coming out, it is something that's very attractive to the end user. And with that said, there's a lot of RGB fixtures out there. Ours actually will go RGBW, so you can actually use it as a regular white light, but then you also have the color spectrum. A lot of the other manufacturers, you would have to do 2 different fixtures. You would have to have your standard fixture as your white, and then they would have a separate fixture for just RGB.
Okay. Has SONARAY done any large area installs, such as ports or railways or airports with this line?
With the actually not the Epsilon, but a 500-watt Delta series, it's a little different than this sports light. We actually did the ports in Panama. And we have some photos of that as well we can share if need be. As far as we've done several different truck facilities, large truck stops we've done with these.
Okay. What is the temperature range on this line? Can they be used in very cold environments?
So yeah, actually the colder with the LEDs, the better. The colder it is, actually the better they run. As far as heat, I do have applications with these, not exterior, they're actually used on interior jobs, probably closer to the 130 degree. I know most of our other fixtures are up to probably about 155 to 165 degree. With the exterior, you just typically don't have to run that high.
Is SONARAY working on a version of this line that is made in America?
It has been discussed. It's very early, so I would be very cautious either way. It definitely is in discussion. Anything else? All right, well, things have quieted down. If there's nothing else, feel free to give us a shout or a call, and we can definitely get you the answers you need. We have recorded this, so we'll have the link come out probably either tomorrow or Friday, or either today or Friday, and we'll have that sent out to you guys, to all the reps. So you feel free to share it with your customers, with end users, and if you need anything else, let us know. We did have a video kind of playing before everybody got on to keep from a black screen. So that can be, we'll send that link as well. Just be aware there's no sound. It does show the different options with the boxes, with the lights, aiming, with the lasers and shields. So it does give a nice animation of how things work. And I'm seeing a couple questions on the Q&A. So cost differential between the RGB and the standard. You're probably looking at about a 20%, 25% increase in price to the RGBW. There's another question there I see. Yes, these were actually developed for the Tokyo Olympics, and then we carried them over to us as well. And as far as troubleshooting the control systems, if we have an issue, we actually have engineers on staff. And then the nice thing about these, if there is an issue with the control system, I don't know if you can see it real good, it's actually just a box here. It's actually four screws in. You can take that out, reset it back in with a new unit if they can't figure out what's going on. So things have kind of quieted down. Again, we'll send out the recording. Please reach out to us if you have any other questions. And everybody have a great day. Stay safe, and we will see you 2 weeks from today for the tunable panels. We released some new items there, so look forward to seeing everybody then.